Hey there everyone, welcome back to Game Vine, and my name is Dave, and today we're going to continue to talk about Gen Con 2015, but I have two special guests with me today. Patrick Walter, which is to my left, and Travis Barrix, which is to my right. Now, do you want to give some of your background into your gaming?
Sure, I'll give a little background. So again, Patrick, I've been gaming for honestly I don't remember how many years, it's been about 2 or 3 years. And it was sort of a slow rise into the, as you put it, the modern age of gaming. I had some skirts with it. I played Little City of Horror, a Little Acquire, some Dominion, Pandemic. Finally enough, I had enough experiences where I decided to really get involved. I bought a couple first games like Infiltration, Libertalia, and then it just sort of exploded from there. I've been heavily involved. I do Kickstarters, I import games, I spend tons of money on games that I should really be using for other things. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I'm absolutely involved, and I love gaming.
Mm-hmm. And you, Travis, how about your background?
Well, board gaming has been more recent phenomenon for me. However, playing card games has been
life
since elementary school. I was that one kid in the playground that actually knew the rules to the Pokemon card game.
Oh yeah.
And wanted to play people in it. I didn't just collect to get all the Charizards and the Blastoise. I wanted to be the best at the card game. And it's taken since then, from Pokemon to Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic. Any Star Wars card game that came out when I was in middle school, I got my hands on. The old Lord of the Rings game. There used to be a company called Decipher that I bought basically everything that they made. And card gaming has been a part of my life since I've been 10. And I'm a lot older than that now. But recently, in college, I started with Dominion and Settlers of Catan, the two gateway games.
Sure.
It seems like.
But it's not a bad thing.
Aside from Pandemic.
I've never played a full game of Pandemic.
That's great. Yeah.
That's right. When we played that one time, you had the
I had to leave.
Yeah.
My mom locked her keys in her car at the gas station.
Oh, I know what we're gonna do next game day then. Might as well bust
so I need to play that at some point, but. The transition game out of the gateways was the first Z-Man game I ever bought, which was Shadowhunters.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, I like board games. So then I met Patrick and Dave, and I have bought a lot more board games since then.
Yes.
Not nearly enough, though.
Yeah, no, you always
My
need
bank
more.
account might disagree.
Yeah, most definitely. So, now that we have your backgrounds established, basically this video is just going to be an overview from their perspective. You know what I thought, because I have a really long video telling you all that. So I'm just going to be interviewing them, and we're going to go into the minute details that I didn't touch on. So, the first thing that we're going to get into, this was our second Gen Con, me and Patrick, but this was Travis's first Gen Con. So we're going to get into his overview first. What do you think of your first Gen Con, bud?
It was awesome. Lame statement to start with. It's what people always say after a big convention. That was great. That was awesome. But that was my first really big convention. Like, I've been to conventions for other things where there's 10,000, 15,000 people, but 60,000 people.
Yeah, 61,000.
61,000 people, and a bigger number than last year, right?
9% actually.
So
yeah,
the hobby is growing, and that's awesome. I'm part of that growth. I wasn't in that community, and I feel like I'm starting to become part of it now.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
he really got
my bank account.
all
Thanks
of us into it.
That's true. I am the catalyst that brought Dave back in, and
most definitely.
Travis in.
So for sure, and it was fantastic. It was a wonderful assault on all your senses, from the music that was in the hallways with live musicians to art everywhere. Cosplay, which was not what I expected. I didn't expect cosplay.
Yeah, that big parade with that big squid balloon. That actually broke Guinness Book World Records.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, that big red thing that we were blowing up at the entrance.
Oh, yeah. That's what that was a squid?
It was a giant squid octopus thing. Wow. It was crazy.
Broke records.
So, it was more than I imagined it would be. And I'm excited to go back and go from a different perspective, just being wide-eyed the entire time, like, what? To go back and do some more detailed things.
Gotcha.
Because I kind of had the general first-time experience, I think, where I try to do as much as possible of everything.
Well, you had a lot of time to do it, though.
Yeah, we had the full weekend experience, which was cool. We went 3 out of the 4 days, because I think Thursday nights.
Yeah, we didn't. We've had to buy the passes, which that's a gripe in itself. But, we had a lot of time there. But that's the time that we didn't have last year now, isn't it? We only had like a day and a half last year.
It was really more like a day, because we went down mid-Saturday, and then we left Sundays. It was like a day.
Yeah, we had to park twice though. That was fun. That was much easier than this year though.
That's what I was telling Travis when we were trying to find that parking, man.
Yeah.
We just like last year we got in, found a spot, and we were done. Both days.
Yeah.
Not this year.
What about your experience this year? What about you? Was the second Gen Con better? What do you think?
Well, so just a little bit more backstory for me. Last year was my first Gen Con and my first con period. I haven't been to any other conventions. I don't tend to go to big group events or with lots of crowds, people, whatever. I've gone to a few concerts, etc. So yeah, last year was like we were saying, basically just a day, maybe in terms of hours. Maybe we got a full 8-10 hours worth of Gen Con, and being this first con, like you're mentioning, there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of stuff to do there, and even if someone tells you, what it's about, what to expect, that you can't properly, give that forewarning of what's going to happen and what to really, how to approach the experience. So
it is a feeling.
First year was a lot of just, hey, there's a lot of board games here to buy that I can get. I'm going to go there and buy them. There might be some ding and dent games and some specialty games.
So cool.
Right, and you get a lot of good deals that way. And then I played a couple tournaments and I was, done. So this year, overall impression, much like the first year, was a really great time. Very small little things here and there, but I don't know if I'd really attribute them to Gen Con per se. Just sort of when you get that many people in the same space, there's going to be some things that go wrong or that you don't like.
Yeah.
But I would say that for me it was just a better experience, and that's only because of my level of investment in it this year, as opposed to just buying and playing a couple tournaments. I did the buying, I did the tournaments, I went to demos, I went outside the con to specialty events, I went to a writer panel, I talked to designers. So I did a lot more, obviously, and there's still more that I didn't do.
Oh yeah, I mean it's snapshots, right? I mean it's like you see this here and then you kind of flow over to this, and stuff in the middle kind of gets lost almost.
Yeah, it's almost like vignettes of Gen Con.
Yeah.
No matter, even if I went for all 4 days, all day, I still don't think I would get the full experience.
Impossible.
And as they continue to grow, there's going to be more and more and more. But that's one of the reasons I like Gen Con, is because they embrace not just board games, but everything. You wouldn't expect to have writer panels there, or anime panels there, or whatever, but they're there and you can do them. And just to kind of sum it up real fast, it was a great experience. Better than last year, but only because of my level of investment.
Gotcha. So yeah, the first thing we're going to get into is lines in games. So with the lines, I mean,
good.
One day we got there before the doors opened, right? There was that big crowd.
Saturday morning.
Yeah,
Saturday.
and I mean,
It was Saturday?
it was one of those days.
I think it was Sunday for me, because it was the last day.
Well, we went Sunday, you were there, but we lined up Saturday. That's when we got Game of Thrones.
You're right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you guys went right to the Fantasy Flight line.
Talk about lines, by the way.
We got there at like 9:30, and there was at least a good 100 people right in front of those doors, and that was just these doors. And these doors had 100 people, and I mean, and they were screaming, "Do not run!"
So it would not just become 100 people, with several hundred people packed into a small space.
Yeah, it was crazy. So what you had to do, if you wanted the game, because the crowds were so big, you had to bolt to that booth. Which booth did you guys bolt to first, and did you get the game that you wanted?
Well, I of course have the story of the day for that.
Okay, take it
Oh
away.
yes, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
This is
so
awesome.
Travis and I actually came down after Dave, and this is on Friday, not on Saturday. And one of the games, the few games that I made a list for, because I don't like to make lists for going to a convention. I just kind of want to experience whatever's there, was Flick 'em Up. So we're driving down, and it's about 2 hours after Dave gets there, or I don't know, sometime after. So Dave texts me during the ride, and he says, and I wasn't driving while texting, by the way, this is while I was stopped. He says, "Hey, Flick 'em Up," and they only got like 20 copies left. I couldn't get a second copy for you, and I'm like, "Oh my god, they're gonna run out. I'm not gonna get one." So, and of course, parking is ridiculous because we went to probably 13 different lots. They were all full or specialty parking, and finally we managed to find a place, get in there, and we walked the Gen Con. So our first priority is to get the badges, and then my first goal, as far as first game, was to get Flick 'em Up. So I'm like, we're going straight to the exhibit hall.
I told you, it's right on the left.
On the right.
On the right. Sure.
Yeah, on the right. So we went to the right, And there's Z-Man Games. I know that's sort of the parent company of Pretzel Games. So we go up to Z-Man Games and we're kind of standing around. And then I was like, hey, this guy's available here. So we go talk to this guy. And he's like, well, the games were actually on the other side of the booth. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, what? But however, they sold out. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of expected. It's happened. And then he goes on to, keep stringing me along. And he's like, hey, well, I actually have 2 copies hiding here. He didn't say hiding, but basically behind my counter here. I'm like, oh, okay, are they for sale? Well, yeah, they are. How much? And then we got to the point of the transaction. I managed to get one of the last 2 copies of Flick'em. Totally lucky, not expected, a miracle of Gen Con. But
yes, we experienced the miracle of Gen Con.
That was my first spot to go for like the whole convention, was straight to that place to see if I could get a copy.
So my follow-up to Patrick's miracle of Gen Con was to go try to walk the Fantasy Flight booth.
On that Saturday.
Was wrapped, or no, this was the Friday.
So that was on Friday?
Yeah, this is Friday. Because the next thing I really wanted, the number one thing on my list, which was short against, Patrick said, probably not a good idea to make a list. So, all right, seems like a good idea. But I didn't want the Game of Thrones card game, because it's Game of Thrones in a card game. The Fantasy Flight booth was like wrapped around.
They had to cut it out. Again. Yeah.
And
we
then
actually got in line at the wrong place.
We got in line at the wrong point because we didn't realize, because the line was so long, they had to like break it up between the hallway segments.
Yeah.
And then so the Fantasy Flight employee had to yell us to get back in the high line because we didn't know.
Wow.
And of course, it was a ticketed item, which I didn't even know was a thing, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't available on Friday for us, but...
So you just it was just giving tickets out that day?
Yeah, they gave tickets on Thursday.
Oh.
And then they were all gone. So people had to pick them up by Friday at 6. Otherwise, it became a free-for-all the next day on Saturday.
Gotcha.
So the Gen Con miracle for me was getting up super early Saturday and actually getting a hand on a copy of the game.
Gotcha.
The next day when people didn't pick up their tickets.
Very nice.
A lot of people.
A lot of people didn't pick up their tickets.
Stacked, man.
I think that's maybe something that needs to be revised, because I think people like the idea of being able to just go pick up the game whenever they wanted versus actually wanting to truly buy the game.
And people sell those tickets individually just for the opportunity to buy the game, which I think is absolutely absurd.
Don't do that.
Don't be that guy. I mean, I had a few lines that I missed out. I missed out on the Codenames game at CCG, but I mean, there's nothing too big. Are there any other lines we want to hit on before we go to the next subject?
You get professional line standing credentials at Gen Con.
I mean, just to show that we're not just a bunch of miraculous gentlemen here. I did miss out on Mysterium a couple times, but that's just because, I mean, I got to a point where, you have to get up at a certain time, and you have to be there very early, and you have to be one of like the first 50 people to get there.
And you gotta have the money.
And you gotta have the money. So I did miss out on that a couple times, but I wasn't necessarily terribly worried. And that line wasn't awful. Asmodee's line was just kind of like around the corner.
Yeah.
You were in there.
Very cool booth, though.
Oh, yeah.
It was neat.
I
like a good job with that.
Yeah.
They're very professional. I mean, there are a few booths that are like, Fantasy Flight's one of them, that are just so professional.
I could have spent forever in Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay, so with that being said, what games were winners for you? What game have you played that you were like, yes, I'm glad I bought this game at a con at the MSRP?
Well, for me, I mean, I kind of take time to play the games.
Sure.
We, have a lot of logistics and things we got to work out that don't always work out, so we don't always get to play games right away. So, I mean, I think the only game I've actually played from the con so far is Artifacts Inc.
But that was a good one.
It was fun, yeah. It was just a nice little game that was very compact and well done. I mean, it's a Red Raven game, and I think I own almost every game in their collection.
Oh, I think you do, yeah. Or it's on the way.
Yeah, I'm a Kickstarter hound, so I have lots of games that are coming that I own but don't have yet. So, as far as, I think really I would have to kind of do it almost in reverse, because I do buy a lot of games, and it's not necessarily the best purchasing method, but I do buy a lot of games that I have not played yet. I like to do research on them and try to delve in and see what's there and watch reviews and see what people have to say and kind of read up on mechanics and things. So one of the games that I actually got to finally play at Gen Con, well, it's not going to be what you think it is.
Gotcha.
I'm going to save that for later.
Absolutely.
Was the one with you. We did a 3D playthrough of Shadows of Brimstone.
Yeah.
So cool.
It was great.
The neatest.
Nice.
The second neatest. But really cool. Still.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, cool in a literal way too, because we were playing the Anarchy.
Yeah.
So that was sort of reverse for me, where I already have the game. I've had the game for probably 4, 5, 6 months. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's just a bigger game, which is awesome. I love bigger games. Got lots of miniatures, a dungeon crawl, fantastic. So I finally get to play it at the con, and it was awesome. I mean, we got to do a run through with probably the best demo runner I've ever played a game with.
He was fantastic. To give an example of how good he was, we had a guy in our group that was hearing impaired, and it did not slow him down at all.
Yeah.
Everyone knew what was going on. Everyone was having fun.
That's so cool.
And it was, I mean, we were all high-fiving each other and working well as a team and a group. And it's because he was such a good game runner.
Nice.
I mean, all that dude from Flying Frog is amazing.
Gotcha.
So,
We're gonna find out who that is.
yeah.
I think his name is Corey.
Okay, Corey from Flying Frog. Good job, buddy.
But yeah, that was a great experience for me just to be able to play that and go, oh, okay, well, I did make a really good purchase
Nice.
to see, because you know, sometimes you read up on games and it doesn't play exactly as you think it's going to when you get it, but to have that do that for you, and I don't think it was necessarily just the 3D aspect, but just all the mechanics worked together really well, except when, you know, I was the lantern holder and I couldn't roll anything but lizards. But yeah, it was awesome.
The best item in the game that day.
Yeah. So, I really think the only game I played so far is Artifacts.
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah.
I mean, you
Well,
could play
aside
that
from-
and Firefly Shiny Dice, but I mean, again, they're just
I
kind of.
didn't buy that one though.
Well, right.
So,
All
that's
right.
for me.
So, how about you, bud?
The two I was most excited about was, as I talked about earlier, I love card games. The Versus System 2PCG came out at Gen Con. It was launched. They had a big $10,000 tournament. I was tempted, but I didn't want my first experience with the game to be a super intense $10,000 tournament where, you know,
rules are kind of vague with
the rules are a little
right?
vague. Everyone's still learning. I mean, there's a lot of people that played the game previously. There's a lot of carryover from that game, but there's a lot of changes too.
I mean, it's an LCG
A whole
now.
lot of changes, and the format of it being an LCG is a big difference, which I love. But even inside the mechanics of the game too, there's a lot of differences.
Gotcha.
It's a lot more streamlined than the old Versus System game is. The old Versus System had a huge learning curve that took people a long time to learn how to play. This one is much more friendly for teaching beginners how to play, and even being a beginner myself and learning how to play it. So I was very glad to get my hands on it. It came with a box that was pretty solidly big box.
Yeah, that was a nice box
Yeah,
too.
it's nice, and I still
I
use it
liked
for
it,
my. You can figure deck boxes in there actually, which is nice. But it came with 400 cards, so it came with a full playset of every single card, which is wonderful. It's so good not to have to buy 2 base sets of something. Because you don't have to, because they were so good about it. I mean, really, it's nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely.
Most games I can say aren't like that. Now, the other game that I've gotten to play since then is the Game of Thrones card game. I played one game with Patrick. I played a lot by myself. I've made 2 decks out of the starter set. Now, that is the opposite of Versus System, where Versus System gives you a full place of everything. Game of Thrones, I gotta say, is a little stingy in terms of some of their doubles of cards that you might want. For me, I love Daenerys Targaryen. She's my favorite character in the show, and I'm reading the books now, and I'm really enjoying her there. So I wanted to make a deck with her in it, and she's in the game. That's great, but it comes with 1. So, and you have a 50-card deck. So good luck getting her even.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I will buy multiple sets of the card of that game, and I will contribute to that problem. But it's because I really want it.
Sure. Well, at least you have one
they
game
definitely
that doesn't
know
have
that.
Yeah.
So,
and
unfortunately.
more power to them. I mean,
Yeah.
that being said, their expansions, their chapter packs, and with Android, their data packs, they come with a full playset of everything that comes in there. So that's you don't ever feel too bad when you buy one of those. It's just their starter sets where they get you.
Nice. Yeah, there was a lot of good games. I did enjoy that Versus System back in the day. I'm excited to play it again with you.
Ready to go.
So the next thing that I have here are events and/or tournaments.
Yeah.
So I know you both did it. I didn't do any. I played a lot of.
Tried.
Yeah. I tried. I did play like a lot of prototypes and just demos. But yeah, let's get into what Patrick did so we can explain our laughter there. So what did you do?
Do you want events and tournaments? Or?
Yeah. You can go down in any
All right.
order you want.
So I'll just do events first. I think it should be pretty simple.
Yeah.
Just some of the smaller events I did, like I mentioned, the writers panel. I am a writer. I'm a writer, not an author yet. I haven't been published yet, so I'm, lofty dream down the road somewhere. So, someone, a friend of mine who'd been to Gen Con before too, actually mentioned that to me. I didn't know they were there in 2014. So I decided to go to one, and it wasn't too bad. I think the only thing I had to say about it, it was a little short. It lacked some interactivity because of its shortness. Most of the time was spent with the authors on stage kind of talking about their experiences and how they overcame things and providing with advice, which was great actually. I mean, I got a lot of useful things out of it. But because it was so short, we didn't have as much time to do the Q&A. I think we had like 2 questions, and then we had to go.
That's no good.
Well, it was partly, I think they were running other events. I'm sure they were running other events.
Absolutely.
It was like, hey, we got
Absolutely.
to go. So okay.
That happened to the Dice Tower apparently too. They only could answer about 3 or 4 questions. So
The Dice Tower can happen to
anybody. Absolutely. Go ahead. I had to get them in there. Just rewarded them in there. Right?
So I'm trying to think of like other events that I actually signed up to go to aside from tournaments. I don't think there were too many.
Well, I guess, can you consider the 42 gallery again?
I didn't really sign up for that though. That was more of a. I'll get to that in a second. Okay. So 'cause that's kind of my big event. So, some of the ones I didn't sign up for were just a lot of little demos and things. Go around to like sort of play those and partake in the sort of specialty things like the 3D board, because you don't get to do that all the time.
No, yeah, they had a ton of giant games like there. It's
Absolutely.
Great. Awesome.
And then the tournaments. So last year, one of the tournaments I decided to partake in was King of Tokyo.
No, thank you, by the way.
So there's a little story about that. And I hate to kind of put this, out there because I don't want to like bring the fates down on me and be like, well, you had a little bit too much of a good run. We're gonna go ahead and switch that around for you. Knock on wood there. But so
Just don't blame me.
Right. So I went to King of Tokyo tournament last year, and I played the first one I played. I ended up winning my little table, and then there's a lot of luck involved in this, to be honest. I went to the winners table because originally they were doing it that way last year, where they had like 6 tables, and then the 6 winners would go to like a finals table, and whoever won that would move on to like the national championships on Sunday. So I managed to, my first year, go there, win the table, get into the final table. I actually lost. I thought I had lost, but then all the guys were like, hey, wait a minute. As I was leaving, they're like, hey. They called me back and they explained that because it went down to 4 people, we weren't able to do a certain rule anymore, so I was actually not supposed to take damage, blah, blah, blah. I get pulled back into the table and I win.
Yeah.
I end up getting this guy his penguin and zombie.
It's eluded me forever.
It was like 6 tournaments you tried?
Oh yeah, it was 5 at that time, but yeah, I'm still going. So it's at like 7 now.
Wow.
So I just won one. I'll give it to you or whatever.
This year I wanted to kind of continue tradition. I did King of New York because it's been out, and I felt like I don't need to do King of Tokyo again. I want to kind of, I've gone as far as I feel like I need to go in that. So I did King of New York again. They did a little bit differently. This year they didn't have a finals table, they just had other tables, and if you win, you move on. So I managed to win that table, and I got a zombie which I gave to the guy at my table who just wanted to, well, we talked it out and we played out a full game. We didn't like do anything, shenanigans wise, but he said, I really just want the zombie, so I said, okay, well, let's play it out and see what happens, and I managed to win, and I just said, you know what, I don't care, I don't need it. Gave him the zombie, went our separate ways, had a good day.
Gotcha.
I did end up losing again in the national championships. I just can't get beyond that first round, but I was going to do an Ascension tournament. I was so dead by that point. I'm like,
there'd be some diehards too, like diehards playing.
That's part of the reason I didn't want to do it. I didn't have the energy for it. Being that I'm a Kickstarter fiend, I get a lot of emails about updates on Kickstarters, and I'm sort of subscribed to them, those companies, and they'll tell me like, hey, this is what's going on elsewhere in our company, or hey, here's a special Gen Con email, or here's a special sale email. So I get a bunch of emails, and that's why I knew about the 3D playthrough game for Shadows of Brimstone.
Yeah.
I get one about Kingdom Death, and it's going to be at an art gallery, Gallery 42, which is like 3 blocks away and 1 block up from the convention center.
Easy walking distance.
Yeah, absolutely. If you know where you're going.
You know where you're going.
Our phones help us.
That is always a caveat.
Yeah. So I let these guys know this is one of the other important things they really want to do. Like, we really want to play this game, and part of the reason is because for me, Kingdom Death is my favorite game I don't own yet, and when I do own it, I have a really good feeling that it'll become my favorite game.
Yeah.
So I sort of dragged these guys along, and we're like, hey, let's go to this gallery. We walked out of the convention later in the day, like around 7ish. went to this gallery, and just talking about the gallery itself, it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have the video here, but yeah, it was gorgeous.
It had like $50,000 pieces of art. It was sort of dark, twisted. You had these cool metal sculptures, and there was actually
spoons. Like they were like angels and creatures made out of spoons. And it sounds so dumb. Like
it really does.
Describe it that way. But like when you actually look at it, if you take a look at the video inside the gallery, it's beautiful. And eerie in a good way. Like you just couldn't take your eyes off some of the pieces, really.
They had comic book art too.
They had some cool comic art too.
It's kind of cool. That Spider-Man one that you were.
That was.
If I had a lot of money, man, I would have.
You would have $3,500 to throw down for some Spider-Man art, right?
Yeah. Or own every game at Gen Con. But
well, yeah.
It's a tough battle. Okay, so just to kind of sum up the gallery, kind of finish off there. It again, it's a fantastic gallery. I haven't been to too many galleries, but I have been around. I went up to Chicago and a couple in Colorado. I've been to the art museum here in Cincinnati.
Love it. Yeah, so amazing.
And this one to me was the nicest one I've ever been to. Not just because of the the expensiveness of the pieces of art, but just the style, the production of the floor and the wall. Everything about this place was very well done and had
they
a lot
got us
of
drinks
love to
too.
it.
They were really nice and
Free drinks for a reason I'll never understand, but I'm very grateful for.
The only place in Gen Con where you'll get a free beverage. That's let's be honest.
That's the truth, though, man.
That is true. They had a nice Geek Chic table that we were able to play on as well.
Oh, that's what
Geek
it
Chic was kind of they were kind of making the event happen.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we come in here with our like sweaty shirts on and our shorts and these giant bags filled with games.
Body-sized bags.
And they're playing a game run by the creator, designer, producer, mastermind of the game, Adam Poots. And which is really cool in itself too, because you don't always get designers who run games, especially for the whole day.
Yeah.
And they finished up their game. We got to sit down, and finally, after it's been over like 2.5 years, I backed this game back in like May of 2013. I spent way too much money on it, but not not regrettably. And so I've been seeing all the updates and the delays and just the level of passion. He keeps like stuffing new product into this thing, and he doesn't have to. He's already got he's fulfilled his what the backers have wanted. He said he was going to, but he keeps putting new stuff in there, and it just never, the love for that game never dies.
No.
So finally, I get to play it, and what can I say? It was my favorite event at Gen Con.
It was my favorite event at Gen Con.
Just the way we executed too. Like, not only did we play the game, we executed on all cylinders.
I think I had the luckiest Gen Con there because the opening move was, so just to describe the scene here, we all sit down, we're kind of filling on our chart with the help of the, I think it was another assistant or one of the
production two other assistants,
which were very helpful.
And they had like pre-designed characters that we kind of filled in our stats, and we got a basic overview of what we're doing. So we're kind of doing the battle phase. There's 3 phases as far as I remember in Kingdom Death. There's settlement, there's hunt, and there's showdown, and we just did the showdown phase. And we fought this gnarly, awesome Phoenix thing that looked like it came out of Dark Souls or something crazy.
It was huge. The
miniature was huge. Yeah.
Had hands all over it. It's crazy.
So the designer, he was, setting up everything, and the Phoenix was going to attack, and he explained, well, there's a flow to when they attack, and you can interrupt parts of this flow. And he says, well, you have these special actions that you can sort of use. They're limited, and you can try to interrupt that flow to do something. And he was suggesting, hey, why don't you dash away? And he says, well, unfortunately, you won't get far enough away, but hey, it was a thought. And I said, okay, well, what if I dash in?
Towards this crazy bird.
Backwards thinking.
Absolutely. So long story short, I dashed in. I rolled 2 crits, knocking the Phoenix down and basically setting up just a complete slaughter of this thing.
Wow.
Which it didn't end in a totally one-sided fashion. We were starting to slip and start to take a lot of damage. But
my head came off.
I think the Phoenix. I think the Phoenix spent as much time on its butt as it did actually fighting.
So I know for a fact we were the only group that didn't lose a single character.
Mention that.
The only group that didn't have a single character death. Which,
And the guy that we had playing with us, if you're watching this, he was a great support character. He was like, I'm not really helping too much, but if we didn't have him, we wouldn't have won that game.
No, it was cool to hear the designer of a game say, Man, you guys play that as well as we do when we're testing.
They were
they
like,
build the game. So.
I wish we had a camera to experience it, because that was like the craziest stuff I've ever seen.
The joke now is that we did so well, he's going to go back and delay more for more play testing. So I've literally inadvertently delayed my own enjoyment of the game by being too good, I guess. I don't know, or being too lucky.
Yeah, those die rolls.
Don't take that away from me, please.
Yeah.
So overall, just my favorite event. The atmosphere alone. And by the way, if you happen to see this and you're a designer and you want a demo game, you need to find something like this to really, not just an art gallery, but anything. You know, depending on what style of game you're doing.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a dungeon crawl or, you know, a party game or a family game, I think there's different avenues or venues rather that you can explore and play that in, and you can take from this, you know, your own. Wishes to kind of get your product out there, because I don't think anybody could go in there and have a bad time unless they were going in for the wrong reasons.
They were clapping when they lost. Like they clapped the first group. They were like, "Oh my god, this is great."
It was crazy, and I think one of the reasons that stands out, besides the fact that it's clearly a great game, and the designer and his team were enthusiastic and engaging, was that the environment was such a contrast to what was going on the rest of that weekend. You're, like we said, 61,000 people crammed into a convention center, which is fun for me. I like people. I'm an outgoing person. It's kind of a cool experience for a weekend.
Yeah.
But then you get to go away for 2.5 hours and go to this big art gallery that has 12 people in it.
Yeah.
And it's nicely air conditioned.
Oh man, yeah.
And
spacious.
Quiet, and they give you drinks. And, which is still,
they killed it.
And they had they had awesome cello music playing, which is a bonus for me. And I want to give kudos for the young lady that worked there, Sarah. She works for the gallery itself. She didn't really have anything to do with Gen Con specifically. Yeah. But she was a gracious host inside the gallery. She was, at least did a very nice job of acting interested if she wasn't genuinely interested.
Yeah.
But, you know, it just was just the best experience you could have. So
I'm with you,
always keep a lookout for those French experiences that might not be in the convention center.
And don't be afraid to go outside of the convention center, because you can find some pretty cool stuff out there.
Unless there's a One Direction concert then.
Yeah, or the city changed there. So yeah, that was Kingdom Death. Now your events and tournaments.
Yeah, so there were two things that I was really excited to do. There's one game from Kickstarter that I'm going to pre-order. I didn't Kickstart it because I didn't have the money to Kickstart it when it was on there.
You always have money for Kickstarter.
Patrick always has money for Kickstarter. It's called Norse Saga, and it's go figure, a card game. But it's not like a 2-player 1v1 card game. It's a 4-player, up to 4-player game where you're building your own family tree with cards. And there's a dominant and recessive trait on each card, and you kind of build down, starting with yourself, to your parents and your grandparents and great-grandparents. And have you ever played the game Mancala back when you were a kid, where you're moving marbles?
Yeah.
There's that kind of element to the game where you have, based on your starting quests of your family tree, you have a certain amount of marbles you have to be able to place on your cards as you build your tree. And you can interact with other people's trees. You can I can kill Patrick's grandma. Dave can come here and kill me even. Then I'll have to lie and make up, oh, I'm really this person now. But I could have to change my whole tree to make my marbles fit that way, right? So it's not just a solitaire game where it's the first person to get done. There's a lot of interactivity was going on.
Gotcha.
The showrunners are great. The guy flew in overnight from Baltimore, Maryland, and then flew back the next day.
Wow.
So it was kind of a whirlwind for him, because they're getting into that production phase right now. So he's busy 24/7.
Gotcha.
But the game is great. I had a blast. I played about 3 rounds of it. I can't recommend it enough. So if you're looking for a good game for a game night that's going to take about 30 minutes, a good starter game.
30 minutes.
You know, that would be it. So look for Norse Saga online. It's for pre-order right now. And I had a blast playing it for sure. The other event I had was a Dice Masters draft tournament. So it was just Rainbow Draft, yeah. Now Rainbow Draft was Age of Ultron, and what was the new set?
The Age of Ultron and the new Marvel. The new
Marvel set. Was it Age of?
Age of Ultron's a new one.
Age of Ultron's a new one. It was
Uncanny.
Uncanny and Age of Ultron. Sorry. So you had 5 packs of each.
Oh, okay.
And you got to build your deck. It was just like everyone just dumps their dice in the middle, and when we organize the dice real quick, and then you pick your card, you pass to the left or to right, depending on which direction you're going for that
Oh,
pack.
I was curious how that would work.
Yeah, it was really cool how it worked. And then at the end, you just pick your dice out.
Okay.
And that way we know if someone actually picked one too many or too short too many because there's dice left over.
Gotcha.
And Dice Masters is a really fun game if you've not played it. It's a Magic the Gathering kind of vibe with dice rolling.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives you that Magic the Gathering vibe with like a deck building kind of game because you're building your team like you would a deck builder as
with 8 cards. I mean,
with dice, but it's really fun. And in there, I end up kind of a Gen Con miracle. I left my bag at the hotel that had my basic dice and bag and all the stuff you actually need to play. I was dumb and I left. I brought the wrong box with me to put inside my backpack that morning. And the guys there, the people that were playing were very gracious. And they were able to somehow come together with everything I needed to actually sit down and play. So that was very gracious of everyone there because they could have just said, "No, get out of here, take your 10 packs and go."
Exactly.
And they did. And they might regret it because I kind of won second place. Now, what was cool is the guy that gave me the most stuff was won first place. I was like, all right, if I'm going to lose to someone, the guy that let me borrow all this stuff, that's a good guy to lose to.
Yeah.
But, you know, the tournament was actually supported really well. There was 20 of us there, and I got a really cool mat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I got a really neat mat for doing it. It's a premier event mat for it.
It looks almost kind of like the Uncanny one, but it has that really nice Dice Masters in the middle there. So
it's a
really
nice full size one, and it was really fun. It got some really cool promos. There's the Beast card that's really good from Uncanny.
Full print.
Full art card of that with the die. Now the only one part, it's not really negative. It's whatever. We got a ultra rare card.
Yeah.
But it didn't come with the die. So they don't provide the die for the card. You get the card, which if you play Dice Masters, you know one without the other is useless.
Especially if it's an ultra rare card.
Yeah.
I mean,
because then you've got to. So I don't get that. Maybe come on, Dice Masters at Gen Con. You got a tournament going. If someone wins, they should get the die in.
Yeah. I mean, jeez.
But that being said, they had prize support all the way up to 8th place.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And surprising. I didn't expect
For
it.
20
I was figuring, I'm going to spend $10 and get 10 packs, which is right at MSRP, and I'll be happy with that, and I'll have a fun time. And then I walked away with 10 packs and some promos and dice and a nice mat. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah. Nice.
So, good time there.
Nice. Oh, I did forget to mention, the reason why we laughed in the beginning, when we were talking about tournaments with Patrick, is me and Travis tried to enter the said tournament. He won with generic tickets, and I had the generic tickets on hand, but I left them at the Dice Tower booth. I'm almost positive that's where they went. And we were sitting down. I was like shuffling through my bag trying to get it. I couldn't find it. We were ready to beat Patrick, but we couldn't.
So the lesson there is don't give Dave anything or do anything nice.
Not
try to stab you in the back as soon as he gets the chance.
Exactly, not a Gen Con at least. Okay, so that was fantastic. I mean, I'm really intrigued by the tournaments I want to do at the Dice Master. Are there any like nice booths that you've seen? I mean, I know you mentioned the Asmodee booth.
Asmodee was really good. I love the Fantasy Flight booth. I could have spent like 6 hours just looking at even all the Star Wars minis that they had for their.
It's just the minis or the ambiance of it?
And the ambiance of it too. It was well organized. So, and they were nice. They almost had like a bar bouncer system where they had a guy at the front letting 2 or 3 people in at a time and then stop. So you didn't feel like you were pressed up against the wall trying to shop. There was about 10 to 12 people in the booth at a time, and then when 2 or 3 people go check out, they let 2 or 3 more people in, which kind of contributed to the longer line.
Sure.
But at the same time, once you actually got in, worth it.
No worries.
Worth it. Anything. I mean, it was just like anything you could ever want from Fantasy Flight was there, except for Red Mission.
Except for Netrunner.
And Netrunner. Red Mission.
Oh no, they announced it. Yeah, Mission Red Planet. We actually played
the Mission Red Planet was sold out super quick.
Yeah,
which
good reason.
Well, yeah, I heard it was awesome. I really want to play it. And then the new Android Netrunner set, which both of them, which comes out. The one that comes out in October. I'm really excited for.
I'm excited for all of them.
Return to Hoth for the Imperial Assault.
Yeah,
we need to play some Star Wars.
And then of course Game of Thrones was the buzzy kind of thing around the comm floor for a while.
They had so many copies of it.
They had a ton of copies of it, and so I was very glad to get my hand on it.
Take notes, other companies. Jeez.
Yeah, it's people travel a long way to come get a game, and if you only bring 50 with you,
50 a day. I mean, they probably bring two,
But
yeah.
even then, like,
Even something, flick them up with 70 copies.
Yeah,
That'll
I
do
was
it.
thinking about that today actually, and part of it is, of course, they have to ship them in, which shipping is,
sure,
I think, one of the biggest costs for a board game company.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
especially
they gotta
big
really,
games.
they almost have to undershoot it every
Now,
time.
you know way more about the industry than I do.
Mm.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm baby when it comes to all this kind of stuff. That being
You like to
said,
turn
if
it
I
on.
was within 5 or 6 hours and I had all my product with me, I would rent a U-Haul trailer, and literally that's how I would take my games to Gen Con.
Yeah.
And I would load it up myself. So
Well,
it
you
was
make a lot of
protected.
money there. And
Because
there's no
I just-
middleman. I mean, it goes right to the
That
publisher.
hype at Gen Con gets people to buy things that they may
Mhm.
not necessarily want to buy, and that's not bad business. That's smart business.
Mhm.
I mean, you want to have enough to appease people, and it was, for the most part, like I said, we got super lucky with the games we wanted.
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't get anything I didn't want.
Yeah, and just to go back, I was thinking about it too again. I mean, it's almost like they're purposely just doing like a teaser. Like, hey, we're gonna build a little hype,
Yeah, I
a
can
little buzz
see
here.
that.
We're gonna get out
Sure,
some copies, and yeah, I agree. They should have more copies. I mean, doing the whole here's 50 copies available today. Here's 50 copies available today. I get it. They're trying to make it fair in a sense. You know, we don't want to just put everything out available, and everyone who gets here on Thursdays get all the
they're the
games, and
winners.
they're all gone.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just, I don't know if there's going to be a perfect system that really satisfies all parties, but there are definitely ways to improve what's available,
No.
and maybe some systems are a little antiquated that can be kind of removed and replaced with something else.
I didn't like tickets, honestly.
Yeah.
Ticket items.
Yeah, I know you did the tickets thing
I
last year.
won King of Tokyo, King of New York that way. It was
Yeah.
like 250 people that got them. I stood in line for about an hour and a half. That was my game.
Which
of
I
the
get
year.
it. Like, it's tough because you've got a product. Like, if you're a big company and you know this product's going to sell, but you only have so much with you, what's
Yeah,
the
and a
best
lot
way
of
to
it-
distribute?
A lot of it is just getting copies in and available and ready for Gen Con.
Sure.
I know just being on Kickstarter a lot, I do see, I'm not an industry expert or anything, but just seeing a lot of updates about, hey, we're trying to get some copies to Gen Con. It does seem like it's a very big struggle, especially because a lot of manufacturing is in China. So they gotta
Yeah.
bring them all in, and then they gotta ship them down to Gen Con. They gotta hope they sell them all, and if they don't, they might have to lower the price or ship
Yeah,
them
they
back.
hate taking them back. Yeah.
So-
Right.
Hey there everyone, this video is running a bit too long, so I'm going to be breaking it up into 2 different parts. So if you want to see the rest of the overview coverage of Gen Con 2015, go to that video. So I guess this is going to be the part 1 of the part 2 Gen Con coverage. Yeah, that works. So until the next time that I see you, have a great rest of your day and a great time with all that you play. You heard it here on the Game Vine. Come back and see the rest of the overview.